Welcome back to You Decide 2007's coverage of the federal election. That's your coverage, you report, you decide. And in this segment we're going to be talking about pork. Not the sort you can eat, but certainly the sort you can probably dine out on. And I'm going to ask our panellists to nominate their favourite pork from the federal election from the last week. Dale?
Well, I was a bit upset about the pork barrelling for the pensioners because I thought they'd shown, great generosity, pork barrelling almost everything else that I could think of, and not enough for the pensioners. So more pork for pensioners and a bit less for lots of other people.
So the idea I liked during the week was putting the pension age off to 67.
I'm sure there are a lot of pensioners for whom that'll be quite irrelevant.
Well, we may well pension off a Prime Minister at 68. Graham, what attracted my attention was some roads in Cape York. Now, it occurred to me that it might be that they were making it possible for the Army to get into the Aboriginal communities more quickly, but it seems to me they're worried about that northern seat of Leichhardt. It could, like Ryan, have gone over into the marginals category.
And this is a 9%er, isn't it?
Something it's a 9%er, yes.
Yeah, but Inch isn't running. You've got a loose cannon of a National Party candidate up there.
And Inch's personal vote is not taken into account.
And I should declare a personal interest. My partner's brother's the ALP candidate.
Oh, well, that's good. That's
right.
good
Well,
for
we all
you.
have our own tragedies, Graham.
Could make Christmas dinner interesting.
Can I just ask one question about pork barrelling? Because I was asked this by a group of school kids the other day. How's it different from buying votes in New Guinea, which they're being taught was corruption?
Well, actually, it's better than that. The Bulgarians, I think it is, they've passed a law against selling your vote.
Oh, right.
But in Australia, it appears to be what elections are all about.
Well, it does, doesn't it? And you can see that it's quite a distressing thing for kids who are being told, what corruption is and buying votes, and that's not a free and fair election. And then there's all this pork barrelling, which is just a more sophisticated way of doing it.
So you never follow self-interest when you vote?
Well, if you're voting for education, is that self-interest? I don't know.
Was the hospital...
I vote for many things where financially I'm going to be worse off if you're going to vote Labor in certain things. I think it's not always self-interest.
Yeah. I'd usually put money on the horse self-interest because at least it's always trying. And certainly amongst people who can't afford anything to be able to consider it of self-interest, I think that's probably where I'd go, without meaning to be too offensive, Dale.
So you've got a nomination for the Pork Award?
I think it's the double whammy, double barrel tax cuts from both parties. Biggest dose of pork we've seen ever. $34 billion worth of pork. And you know what? I actually don't have a problem with political campaigns rolling out the pork. At the end of the day, that's democracy at work. People are going to make decisions on the basis of what they believe is in their best interests, and also what they may say they believe is in the national interest.
How many of them get followed up? Isn't there the case that someone's been getting the same amount of money every election and it just never materialises?
The re-announcements of old pieces of pork, it's really pickled pork that they're dishing out. It's old stuff, it's the same old barrels.
So the Toowoomba bypass has been re-announced every election.
Yeah.
Ever since.
Yeah.
I'll nominate the Toowoomba bypass as a piece of pork.
Okay.
Well, it's been on the agenda ever since the Cunningham brothers crossed the Darling Downs.
So which seat is that aimed at? Is it Blair or Groom?
It'd have to be Blair.
Well, it may well be some seats for the seats below the range. It's not aimed at the Downs. It's aimed at the people on this side of the range.
I would have thought that
Blair.
If you're going to have a road policy for Blair, it'd be the Ipswich motorway. It wouldn't be the Toowoomba bypass.
No, they'll get to that.
Yes, that's right.
There's more pork
Well,
on
they've
the
already got to that,
way.
and that's one of the reasons Ryan's at risk, isn't it?
Very early.
More pork in the barrel.
Still very early days in the campaign. Yeah. And of course the great thing about this country is despite all the pork, we've each only got one vote.
What they'll do is that they'll dish out as much pork as they can. This is campaigning 101. You get your positives up and then you launch your attacks into the other side in the last 2.5 weeks. So they're going to dish out the pork to target groups. I think the best bit of pork that has yet to come is the pork to people who have to pay childcare fees. The real pork, the tax deductibility of childcare expenses piece of pork. Someone's going to come out with that, and whoever comes out with that, I think, is going to shoe it in.
So this is the low-carb diet, and it works in politics.
Absolutely. Sticks and carrots. And
sticks of celery. Yes.
Okay, that's it from us for this week. During the week, we'd like you to go to our site, YouDecide2007.org, and tell us what you think are the important issues. We'd like to know what your nominations are for the pork meal of the week. We'd also like to see you put your politicians under some real pressure and get the stories the mainstream media won't. So that's YouDecide2007.org. We'll be here next week. We'd like to see what you report and you decide.